लाइव ऑलमोस्ट नाउ। आपका फ़ोन पास में लाइव चेक करने के लिए। ओके, इट्स गोइंग टू यूट्यूब नाउ, इट शुड बी लाइव। पास में लाइव चेक करने के लिए। ओके, इट्स गोइंग टू यूट्यूब नाउ, इट शुड बी लाइव।
ओके प्रभु। हरे कृष्ण। हरे कृष्णा। Welcome to our weekly Bhagavad Gita, Bhaman Chitra weekly Bhagavad Gita. Thank you everyone for joining today. Today actually we are continuing the chapter 5 from verse 22 to let's see how much we can finish. Before we start today's class, maybe just for the pleasure of the Lordship, let's start with the Jai Radha Madhava. You can sing with me, or you can mute and sing with me as well if you want. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारी यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधा गोपीनाथ श्री राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधा गोपीनाथ श्री राधे जय राधा नील माधव श्री राधे जय लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुणं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादां सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां स हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा। Once again, welcome back. Once again, welcome back to our weekly Bhagavad Gita class. Today we'll be starting verse from 522 and we'll see how much we finish. Most likely we'll finish the chapter from 22 to 29. I'll just share my screen first. So actually we are starting from 22 to 29. But before actually last week Radhapriya Mataji actually started from verse 18 to 29, and let's recap the verses quickly. So what we are talking about the last week is, I'm not going through the verses or the line by line. I'll just quickly go to the translations only. So the verse 18 says, the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. And the next verse it says, I'll just summarize it quickly, but the next translation says, those whose minds are stabilized in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. The 20th verse says, a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God is already situated in transcendence. And the verse 21 says, such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness for he concentrates on the Supreme. So pretty much what Krishna is explaining from the first two verses, 59 and 19, is the universal vision, which is how a Pandita, Samadarshina, how he just sees from a divine body, a cow, a dog, or a dog eater, or an elephant, he just sees the same thing. That's a universal vision. The person who has that divine spark, who is that the super soul, he sees every living entity or even the non-living entity equal. That's the first, the 18th verse says, and the 19th, what it says, the continuing is conquering birth and death. So what we just what verse 5.19 says is sameness and equivalent, which already he just he has actually kind of conquered the birth and death. He's already situated in the divine, and he's impartial. Verse 20 and 21 actually talk about the rejoice and how he rejoices and how he doesn't get the grief. And he finds what is the real source of pleasure, what is the external pleasure, and what is the eternal bliss. So, in a nutshell, we can just tell the person the person who is a learned Brahmin, learned Pandita, he will just say Samadarshita. He is equivalent. He is steady. He has steady intelligence and he has unlimited happiness. How is unlimited happiness? Because not from the external pleasure, but from the internal bliss. That's kind of a nutshell what Krishna talks about in these 4 5 verses. So he talks about how he can rejoice and how he can sit in that particular state of mind. But what are the actually things, and that can actually he's talking about the other way in the verse 22. What is just trying to explore in the verse 22 is he's why we are just changing those pleasure is just changing that. Let's go to the verse first and we'll just go into translation. ये हि संपर्शजा भोगा दुःखयो न एव ते आद्यन्तबन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधा. Let's hear the synonym. Ye, those. He, certainly. Samparsaja, by contact with the material senses. Bhoga, enjoyments. Dukkha, distress. Yonaja, sources of. Certainly. Eva, certainly. They are. Adi, beginning. Anta, end. Bantate, subject to. Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, na, never. Teshu, in those. Ramante, takes delight. Buddha, the intelligent person. Let's hear the translation. Translated by His Loving Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of miseries, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Let's hear the purport. Material senses pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana, it says, Ramante yogino ante satyanande chidatmani iti rama padenasu param brahma vihandite. The mystic derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead known as Rama. So let's read this. I'm actually good. I like to read in Sanskrit, so I'll just try to convert that. 1 second. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam also in 551, it is says that Nayam Deho Deha Bhajam Nloke Kastan Kama Narhitin Vidbhujamyam Tapo Divyam Putraka Ena Sattvam Shuddhe Desmad Brahma Saukyam Tunantam. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for the senses pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penance in this life, by which your existence will be purified. And as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by the sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. So let's pick some word from this passage, right? So in this verse, the Lord actually is explaining why we suffer and why the pleasures we chase often end up hunting us, actually hurting us. Yes, why whatever we are the pleasure we are after is actually hurting at the end of the day. So that's pretty much kind of this verse is telling us, and Krishna gives a very psychological insight into why we remain tapped in cycles of this dissatisfaction, because we are just going we are actually chasing that pleasure which never exists. He identified this pleasure pain concept here, right? So in the first place, we are just actually seeing as a pleasure there, but at the end of the day, we are having a pain. That actually uh, pretty much everyone's life is governed by them, other than the Paramhamsas and the yogis and Maharajas, who are actually our gurus. We all are on the same state, same cycle. Let's take some, some key points from here. Dukkha yoja, it just talks about dukkha yonena, right? So that's a kind of very powerful word here is dukkha yonena. He Krishna is suggesting in this that every sensory pleasure that we have, like if we eat a great meal, or we buy some new things, or some physical intimacy, or even if we just go through the we are driving the highway and we see some any kind of advertisement, right? So that actually is actually the touching our senses through our sense organs, is touching our senses. And most likely what you can see is with that, actually what he's suggesting here is every sensory pleasure that whatever we're seeing is actually pregnant with future sorrows. Like we see that if any mataji, they're expecting a baby, and in a due course of time they will get a baby, correct? Similarly, anything that we perceive with those, anything we are perceiving through that senses, we will get the pain we will get those things, and that thing will give us a pain. Like, the moment we conceive those, pleasures, we also conceive the pain in the due course of time, 100%. We cannot escape from that. Another word here, very interesting word, is Adi. We can let's get Adi is beginning, Anta is end, and Banta is subject to. So means Adi Anta Banta, right? So this is the problem of time. And if something has a start or something has a beginning, it has end as well. So Adi Anta Banta. So what it is saying is, whatever the pleasure we were talking about from the Dukha Yonena with our sensory organs, whatever the pleasure we are just getting, these pleasures are finite, because they are adyanta banta, they are start and they are end, and they are subject to. subject to pleasure for that particular duration of time only. Well, from 1 second to millions of years, who knows? In some different lokas, we will go, and again after a million of years, we may come again here if we are just after this those sense pleasures. The moment, yes. And the second word we were just talking about was Adya Antavanta. These pleasures are finite, and we see that they have birth and they have death, and they are not permanent. And if we rely on those for the happiness, is likely likely building a house on the sand. क्या बोलते हैं हम हिंदी में? There is a word, ताश का पत्ते का घर or something, right? It's just a small wind just comes and everything vanishes. It's only a matter of time. So it will collapse that. It has Adyanta. Then another word here, the word we can pick is Buddha. Buddha is here, we can clearly see the intelligent person. Buddha is intelligent person. The intelligent person is not someone who has a lot of facts only. I may be knowing a lot of things. I may know, if I read the book, I may know how to take off the flight, how to actually take off the plane, land the plane, or if I'm in army, do some those tankers, how to fight in the battlefield. These are all the facts, just information only. So the intelligent person is not someone who just knows those facts, but someone who recognizes those patterns as well, or who has that experience as well. Just like, let's say, the example of the share market these days, right? So everyone, everyone will know that today's the ASX or whatever the share point we follow will say this is increased by this many points, it's fall by this many points. Everyone knows, and the person who knows ABCD 1 2 3 4, they will know what it is, because that is just a information and this is a fact. But only the trade expert, they will know the patterns. Okay, rising fiber, rising 400, it may be very good, hearing that it rose by 400 points, but from the expert point of view, that may be an indication that the market is going to fall by 800 points. Who knows? Only the experts knows. Only those patterns are only understand by those trade persons. So with this mundane example, with the materialistic example, similarly in the spiritual path as well, only the gurus who have realized those high sense of they actually realize that the high sensory gratification is always followed by low, because whatever it goes up, it always comes down. I think I just remember, I forgot the Mataji's name. Normally, she comes in our hall program. She is a psychologist, and I sorry, Mataji, I forgot your name. We were discussing about how our mind works. The dopamine. We just talked about dopamine goes up and goes up and come down. When it is goes the way it goes up, definitely it comes down. This is a practical example. Is actually proven in a lab. So what that particular research was suggesting is, we should not be going too high or too low. If we go too high or too low, this is actually impacting our health. It's a very analogical example. I'm just trying to get it here. Similarly, the learned person, or the person who has already realized, he doesn't go through those high or low sensory kind of places. So they stop playing with the small games. Okay, if I just drive 200 kilometer at a speed of 150 kilometer per hour, I'll be happy, right? So, but that happy just remains for 2 seconds. After that, again I just want to go on 150, 170, 180. If someone has a passion to drive that, similarly, any passion you have, it's the same thing. So at the end of the day, it will just come to the misery, and the miseries only. So the learned person, he will not play with those games, those which are actually perceived from our external, the senses, rather which they actually go. They actually with their inner they just go inside, they dwell inside and remember Lord Krishna or Lord Krishna, yes. And which the way how they remember, the way the gopis remember the Krishna, that way they are not impacted by the those sensory organs. Similarly, like I mean, we can go examples after examples as well, right? If someone has some blood sugar problems, for example, there the those what do you call this insulin resistance, they say, right? So if we have an insulin resistant problem, if we eat anything, any any sugary food that actually boost our energy, we may run, we may those things, but at the after 1 hour 2 hour, that actually collapse and again we have a problem. So something we what we just look after here is not with the carb but with the protein of the solution. What I mean here is that sustains, that doesn't just spike and it just it's there for a couple of minutes and then again we have a problem. Rather we have a consistent, that sustains that joy, enjoyment. That's what we should go for. Let's go to the next verse. शक्नोति हैव येषूढुं प्राक्शरीरविमोचनात् कामक्रोधात् भवं वेगं स युक्त स सुखी नरा. So let's go through the synonyms. Saknoti is able, iha eva in the present body. One who, sodam to tolerate, park before, sarira the body, vimochana giving up, kama desire, krodha anger and anger. A udbhavam generated from begam, the urges. Sa he yukta in trance. Sa he sukhi happy, nara human being. So let's hear the translation. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So let's go to the purport first. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. There are the forces of talk, forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of the stomach, forces of the genitals, and forces of the tongue. One who is able to control the forces of all these different senses and the mind is called Goswami or Swami. Such Goswamis are strictly controlled lives and forgo altogether the forces of the senses. Material desire, when unsatiated, generate anger and thus the mind. Eyes and the chest becomes agitated. Therefore, one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. One who can do this is understood to be self-realized and is thus happy in the state of self-realization. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously to control desire and anger. Okay, let's actually go through what this verse is. In this verse actually Krishna is actually providing the secret of endurance, right? So he's explaining that liberation is not just a mental state. Liberation is actually it's a battle won against the biological and emotional impulses that hit us every day, right? So it's just not a mental state. Okay, I got liberated. No, that liberation is actually winning our emotional and the biological senses. Excuse me. We can say that this is the kind of the what test we say, litmus test, right? So for spiritual success, and is a milestone for emotional intelligence and self mastery. With this verse we can actually we can actually self mastery on our senses with help of these verses. So in this verse, let's pick some word. The first is what we can just see. It says about iha eva, right? Iha eva means in the present body. In the present body means which body? This body. How many bodies we have? We don't know in our previous life. How many we don't know. How many? What will be our next life? But iha eva, right? In with this time, iha eva means this time. This time is this body. This body means is that tomorrow? No. Is that now? Is now? We don't know what will happen to our body in next second, right? We don't know. So this is in right time. What is emphasizing here is iha eva. Krishna is emphasizing on iha eva. Realization and happiness are not just as we mentioned earlier, they are not just the prices for the afterlife. They are actually the skills to be mastered in this life. So liberation is not if I get liberated, okay, I will go any of the lokas from seven lokas on up and seven lokas and down, with depending upon our desires we will get those whether the punishment or the bhoga depending upon our desire karmas and everything. But that liberation is not the price what we are looking here. What it says that is actually this that actually we are that's a skills to master in this life. And then the second one what we just actually read here is begum, right? begum is the Begum is the desire. This is the urge of the concept of desire, right? So what it says is Krishna compares this desire as a kama and krodha here with the powerful, with the waves of the kamas and krodhas. We always stop. We always stop we always stop the wave from forming. We should always, not we always, but we should always. The verse here actually is suggesting that we may not be able to stop throughout the form, but we must develop that strength and withstand with that impulse. If that wave is coming, we should be able to fight with that, bega. I mean, I just remember one Swarupa Goswami actually is it's the I think the in the purport as well. It is talking about those senses. This is actually Bacho Begam, Manasa Krodha Begam, Jiva Vega, Maduro Pasta Begam. So we have Bacha Begam, right? Bacha Begam means we have the urge of speaking harshly. Um, I was just yeah, I just want to actually recall what Ghanshyam Prabhu said while in our Bhakti Shastri class. He was just giving one example. So I just remember this Bacho Begum here. He was just outside the temple, and there were two devotees fighting for a very simple, very not will say silly. I also drive. I know how frustrating it is to find the parking spot in a very busy place. But both of the devotees, they went temple and they wanted to definitely have a darshan of the Bhagwan, and Ghanshyam Prabhu was just passing by, and he heard some two people very fighting very loudly, and in saying, तो मैं तुम्हारा मतलब खून कर दूंगा, like this kind of thing. This I'm exactly buying his word. So he say, what is happening? So then another was telling, you stop. You are just live here because I have a कंठी in my गला. अगर ये मेरी कंठी नहीं होती तो मैं तुम्हें दो थप्पड़ लगा के मैं यही ठीक कर लेता. मतलब बाच बेगम. So we don't have control on that बाच बेगम. Hopefully not any devotees from Baman Kshetra were there. I'm pretty sure none of the devotees from Baman Kshetra will do that. But the urge of that Bacha Begum is to speak harshly to anyone, right? We have to control that. And the Bacho Begum, Manasa Begum is the urge of mind. Even I am a grasta and I got my family, I got my kids. So even I normally my kids come to home at 3:15 from school bus. If they are they are late by 5 minutes. I just think too much of things in my head. Manasa Begum, right? We cannot control that. That is the problem. So we have to control that. This is, I'm just giving an example of whatever I'm just going through it. Maybe you are not. You are very siddha in a siddha position, liberated soul. Maybe I'm a conditioned soul. So we have a Manasa Begum in here. It just says forces of talk, forces of anger, and forces of mind. Then happens Krodha Begum, right? So we have the urge of anger always. So if things doesn't happen in our way, we fight all we fight with our we fight with our families, we fight with our friends. We never fight with our boss anyways. But we always fight this, okay? But urge of the Krodha Begum. The another Begum is a Jibba Begum and tongue. So we always just look for those gourmet, meals, very nice meal. Always think about that. We should control our tongue. Those are the actually those are the start of the problems. If we cannot stop those, then Jiva Begum, Udara Begum, the urge of the belly, and the Upatasta Begum means genital urges. So these six begum, we have to control this. If we cannot control when I mean Rupa Goswami, I just forgot the total verse. I think this is half of the verse only. The another verse, the explanation is if someone has Bacho Begum, Manasa, Krodha Begum, Jiva Begum, Maduro, Pasta Begum, if we have control on these senses, then the person can actually command in the sense can give the instruction to the worldly people like us. So they are the Swamis and Goswamis. As Prabhupada writes in his purport is they are Goswamis or the Swamis. So that's the Begum is one we can just pick up. Then the another one we can just pick up is another practical concept we can just pick it from here is uh, the war of attenuation kind of thing. So with this, we will not be able to achieve this state like stopping those six begas, but we have to practice every single time. We don't have to be perfect immediately, and no one can, but we should aim to increase the gap between this feeling the impulse and the acting on it. So when today if someone says something, if I'm at if we host monthly hall programs, right? So there are different kind of devotees come, different they have everyone has their own journey. Some have some crow begum, some has some begum. Everyone has their own begum. But if this month I'm doing some seva and I get agitated and I get angry with some devotees. Yes, that is not a perfect situation for me. But next month, if I'm doing the same service, I got the same kind of response from the other devotee or the same devotee. I should not be reacting the way I reacted in the previous month. So that gap, that feeling with that impulse feeling, I should actually feel that gap uh, with I should actually feel that gap feeling and the acting. So each time we actually pause, whenever if something happens, any issue happens, each time we pause and instead of reacting to that anger, we practice this verse. Okay, let's not practice in detail. Just remember this verse. Oh, Bacho Begum. I should not be doing anything. I should not be doing Anasa Begum. No, no, no. I'm not. Whatever I'm thinking is I don't know. It is right or wrong. Let's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Immediately divert our thought process to the Hare Ram Maha Mantra. Krodha Begam, as I mentioned, we should always, gap that, feeling, the feeling of the impulse and the acting on it should be, we should always gap that. And the Jiva Begam, if if I have some urge to eat something, try not to eat that time. Just wait for 1 hour, maybe just drink water. Just wait for a certain time. Then slowly we can win over this. Let's move to the next verse. Yonta sukhontaramas tathantarjoriteeriva tatha Yonta sukhontaramas tathantarjortirevaya sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutosti gacchati. Let's hear the synonym. Yeah, one who anta sukha, happy from within. Anta means within. Anta sukha, happy from within. Anta arama, actively enjoying within. Tatha, as well as anta jyoti, aiming within. Eva, certainly, anyone, saw he, yogi, a mystic. Brahma nirvanam, liberation into the supreme. Brahma bhuta, being self-realized. Adhigachita, attains. Let's hear the translation. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoice within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the supreme, and ultimately he attains the supreme. Let's hear the purport. Unless one is able to release happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? A liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. He can therefore sit silently at any place and enjoys the activities of life from within. Such a liberated person no longer desires external material happiness. This state is called Brahma Bhuta, attaining which one is assured of going back to Godhead, back to home. Hari Bol. Let's pick some verses. Pick some word from this verse, and right. So, on this, so Krishna is what Krishna is describing here is the eternal state of a personal who has successfully bypassed those urges, the urges that we actually discussed and explained on verse 23, six type of urges. The person who has successfully bypassed those urges mentioned in the previous verse, yes, as I mentioned, this is where meditation moves from practice to a lived reality. So this is how we what he is saying at the last is he in the last word he's saying assured of going back to Godhead. So this is 100% guaranteed. So if in this, let's say let's pick the three words from here, right? In the anta sukha, anta sukha, right? So anta sukha means inner happiness, as we said, happy from within, right? So there is no longer dependent on our external objects. I don't need to go to Myer to buy some fancy things to be happy, or if I have 20 people around, just have some power, those kind of things. It doesn't give me as it. So the circumstances doesn't make me feel happy. It's just coming by. There is no longer requirement of the circumstances for me to be happy. And the antarama, anta sukha, antarama, right? Inner relaxation. So that's a antarama is we just said here actively enjoying within atmaram, like enjoying within. How it is, this find who are Atmaram, they find this recreation or kind of rest within their own soul, rather seeking the distraction. So they are recreating the happiness within them. Atmaram and Antarjyoti. The third one we just talking about, aiming within. That's what the Prabhupada said, as here at the somewhere Brahmabhut. He just mentioned here. Perfect mistake. We're just reading this line here. Uh, this can therefore, yes, Brahmabhuta. This is called the state of Brahmabhuta, attaining which is assured just before the Brahma. A liberated, this one, a liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. This is what the Antar Jyoti, right? So it's the inner light, whatever is being, connected with the Supreme Soul. So this guidance and the vision come from the inner wisdom rather than the worldly opinion. So how he is getting this is not with the advice from someone or even advice from the gurus as well, right? After the advice of the guru, this has realized this within, and they are actually after that they don't need any guidance. So the key concept here is the Brahma Bhuta, which is said this, which is spiritually realized, and the Brahma Nirvana, which is actually the liberation. And I mean, we can see most people we operate like as a moon, right? So moon itself doesn't reflect like the moon doesn't reflect itself a sign. Exactly, we don't reflect the happiness from the external source. We should be like sun, not the moon. So those yogis are like sun, not like moon. So we are the material people, the people in the material platform and the material ground, and who practice material things are like moon, and the yogis are like sun. So the yogis, they don't need something so that they can be shiny, but like the moon, it always depends upon the sun. And if we just in the verse 23 we talk about Begum. Again, I'm just coming to that. So in the previous verse, what Krishna told us is to tolerate the urges of those urges of the world, those the Begum, whatever the six Begas. And in this one he explains why it becomes easier, because we have found something better inside than the outside in this verse. So it's for example, it is hard if someone is giving me a small cheap candy, right? I am having a good taste on that cheap candy unless I got a gulab jamun. If I got a gulab jamun, I will definitely leave that so the candy. Similarly, it's easier to let go of that external carving once we actually have that inner light within. So the verse 23 is actually teaching us to be disciplined. If we get that discipline, what this verse is telling is rewarding us. It's rewarding. We will get this is the shift. We will become from moon to sun. Let's go to next verse. Lavante Brahma Nirmana Musaye China Kalmasa Chinnai Yatatmana Sarva Bhuta Hite Rata. Let's go to the synonyms. Labante achieve Brahma Nirvarata, liberation in the Supreme. Rasya, those who are active within. China Kalmasa, China Krishna Kalmasa, who are devoid of all sins. China, having torn off. Divasa, duality. Yatmana, engaged in self-realization. Sarva Bhuta Hite, all living entities. Sarva Bhuta, all living entities. Hite, in welfare work. Rata, engaged. Let's hear the translation quickly. Those who are beyond the dualities that arises from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all the sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Let's say the purport. Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The suffering of humanity are due to the forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer. He, the supreme proprietor and the supreme friend. Therefore, to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no doubt about the Supreme of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love. A person engaged by only in ministering to the physical welfare of a human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of the relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of the relationship with Krishna, his actually liberated soul, although he may be in the material prevalence. Let's pick some word from this verse here. In this one, the Krishna clarifies the common misconception that spiritual liberation makes a person indifferent to the world. So on the contrary, so once the inner light is the seeker becomes a force for good in the world. So that's what pretty much this verse is just telling. But let's try to break in some uh, words. So it says China Kalmasa here, right? So China Kalmasa, if you just see it here, China Kalmasa, having torn, let's see, Kalmasa. China Kalmasa, who are devoid of all sins. So that means free from the sins, right? Their past impurities or whatever the baggage we are carrying from our how many millions of birth, we don't know. Those karmas, these have been dissolved through the wisdom of the right action. The right action is always remember the Harinam Kevalam, right? That's the right action. And another word is Chinna Dveda. Chinna, having torn up, Dveda means duality. So there are no longer, doubts about, so Dvaita, right? Chinna Dvaita, Dvaita, not Dvaita, Dvaita means duality. So they are no longer paralyzed by the duality of life, like good, this is good, this is bad, he's short, he's tall, his successor, his failure, he's rich, he's poor. There is no duality on this one. So these are they see the underlying unity as all things, like what we just study in verse 518, right? 518 verse. Vidya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavyastini, Sunitava Supakesa, Pandita Samadarshita. There is, you don't have a duality there. Samadarshita, equal. And the third word we can pick is Yatatmanam, right? In Yatatmanam. So it's a control. This is the internal. It's engaged in the self-realization, means he is the self-control. He is self within the internal. Their mind and the senses are disciplined and directed to the higher self. Who is that higher self? Higher self is Lord Krishna. So Yatatmanam is their senses are fully controlled and are actually directed towards the higher self. Maybe we'll just jump into the next verse. We got limited time. कामक्रोध विमुक्तानां यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभीतो ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं vartate viditatmanam. We'll just quickly go through. We'll quickly go through the translation, the word to word. Kama from desire, krodha the and anger, bhuta vibhuktinam of those who are liberated, yatinam of this sanity persons, yatachetasam who have full control over the mind, abhito assured in the near future, Brahma Nirvanam, liberation in the Supreme. Vartate is there. Viditatmanam, of those who are self-realized. Let's hear the purport. Let's hear the translation first. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, and assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Purport. One of the saintly person who are constantly engaged in striving towards salvation, one who is in Krishna consciousness, is the best of all. Confirms this action from Srimad Bhagavatam 4:22-49. यत्पादपङ्कजपलासविलापशक्त्या कर्माशयं ग्रथितमुद्रच्छयन्ति सन्तः तद्वन्नरिक्तममतयो यतयोऽस्पि रुद्रं श्रोतो गणास्तममरणं भज वासुदेवम्. So just to just try to worship in devotional service Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great sages are not able to control the forces of senses as efficiently as those who are engaged in transcendental bliss by serving the lotus feet of Lord, uprooting the deep grown desire for fruitive activities. In the conditioned soul, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep rooted that it is very difficult even for the great sages to control such desire, despite great endeavors. A devotee of the Lord, constantly engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, perfect realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme, owing to his complete knowledge in self-realization. He always remains in trance. To cite an analogous example from this. So, दर्शन ध्यान संस्पर्शे मृत्युर्कुर्मा विहंगमा पुष्लन्ति स्वात्य अपत्यानि तथा हम अपि पद्यज. By vision, by meditating, and by touch only to the fish, the tortoise and the birds maintain their offspring. Similarly do I also, O Padmaja. The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditation. The eggs of the tortoise are laid on land, and the tortoise meditates on the eggs while in the water. Similarly, the devotee in Krishna consciousness, always far away from the Lord's abode, even elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly, by engagement in Krishna consciousness. He does not feel the pangs of material miseries. This state of life is called Brahma Nirvana, or the absence of the material miseries due to the being constantly immersed in Supreme. So let's quickly just pick some word from this verse, and maybe we'll summarize. Maybe we'll just take one more minute here. Here the Krishna summarizes the total freedom of the self-realized soul, right? So the verse here actually is the final promise before he transcends into the technical mechanics of the meditation. So what he's saying, the key concept from here is kama krodha viyuktanam, right? Being completely disjoined from desire and anger. It's not just about suppressing them. If we suppress, like for example, if any of us has a disease, we are having a medicine as soon, because what is that medicine doing? It is suppressing that. It is not cure. So as soon as we just not we are not having that medicine, we have the same problems. Similarly, it's not just about suppressing that. It's a root cause. It's finding the root cause and getting the solution for that, right? So it's not just about suppressing them. It's about no longer being tethered into them. Calm, क्रोध, आना है, मतलब it's not coming towards us. Let's get another one. Yati Nam. The other one is other word here is the Yati Nam, right? So the Yati Nam means here of the sanity persons. So refers to those who are actually endeavoring or striving. This actually implies to the spiritual mastery in an active and in persistent effort, not every day. Today I'm just going here and tomorrow I'm just going down. Constantly, persistent effort. Yet chetasam, right? Yeah, having a governed and controlled mind. If we don't go, if we leave out those, senses, we'll just fall down again 100%. So those senses should be governed and should be controlled. This mind no longer, the mind is no longer the master. It has become a useful tool. Maybe I will just recap on the verses starting. So the 22 is actually talking about the verse 23 is talking about the urges. 24 is talking about the what we discover that we joy inside you, and the 25th is actually talking about our inner peace to serve the all living beings. We talk about the Goswamis and and then on 26th we just leave the constant state of liberation, not up and down. I think I will stop here. I thought to finish until 29, but I could not finish. So I'll just stop here. Hare Krishna. If I have done any offenses, please forgive me. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.